Welcome to Claim Your Confidence, a podcast that will introduce you to the most powerful people in the world. No matter what obstacles you face, Claim Your Confidence will inspire and motivate you to go after the life you want. Are you ready to claim your confidence?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Claim Your Confidence. I'm Lydia Fenet, coming to you out of Newsstand Studios in Rockefeller Center. And joining me with a beautiful background of what looks like a very sunny day in Vermont is Kerry O'Brien, the CEO and founder of Commando. Kerry, welcome to Claim Your Confidence.
Thank you so much. So great to be here.
Well, I want to start off by saying that I kind of want to be where you are right now. As I look at Kerry, she's sitting in front of this beautiful green landscape. And, you know, in New York City, when you hit summer, all of a sudden you sort of crave that outdoor. So I am jealous of where you are right now. Tell me a little bit about Vermont. You grew up in Vermont, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a sixth generation Vermonter. So I did my time in New York City when I was in my 20s, but I moved back to Vermont to start Commando. So when I grew up on a farm here, I was a middle child, one of five.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was a great upbringing. And I decided when I started Commando that I wanted to live under my own rules. I didn't have to work for anybody anymore, although working for yourself is very hard too. And I'm like, gosh, this company should be based in New York or LA, but I decided Vermont's a better place to live. So we just did it this way. I did it the hard way, but a nice way for me.
What is a sixth generation Vermonter? Tell me a little bit about growing up in Vermont and who you were as a middle child of five kids.
Well, I grew up on a street. It was called Old Farm Road. It was a working dairy farm. And I had three sisters and a brother. And my cousins lived next door. And every day before kindergarten started, I would run across the field and I would, quote unquote, help the farmers. Oh. And I would be, helping them, whatever their chores were. I doubt I was much help at all. But when I went to kindergarten, I felt like I wasn't sure what the farm was going to do without me because I had to bring it to the farm. I have to start kindergarten. I don't know what you guys are going to do. So, but it was a very curious household. Lots of family dinners, big Sunday dinners. I had a very strong mother who always taught us a sense of style and self-worth. I had my father was always very deliberate on how he talked about how he wanted us to be educated and financially self-sufficient.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it was amazing. I mean, they knew they were going to have a large family, I don't think they quite knew they were going to have four daughters and then a boy. And he just felt it was so important for women to have equal power with men. And there's no reason there should be any financial disparity there.
It's incredible because I feel like that's not something that you would have heard with most families growing up and your generation and my generation. I feel like it was very different where I grew up. Money was not something that we discussed and financial autonomy was not part of it. I will say that my father was very similar in the sense that I came from four kids, boy, girl, boy, girl. And I think it was more just because there were so many of us that if one of us did it, we all did it. Like we all played on dad's soccer team because that was just the way it was going to be. Although the boys did not do ballet and that was really my mom's thing. But it is interesting how growing up with a father who is so into having equal rights for their children really impacts the way that you view yourself, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And of course, my mother was, of course, right there as well. I really grew up thinking I could do anything. I could literally do anything. And whenever I had an opportunity or to pursue something new or interesting, I was always very curious about it and felt like I should do it. Like whether it was getting a part-time job, I always did internships. The very moment I could do an internship in high school, I would do it. Like I would intern for the town hall and do work for the bookkeeping office, or I actually worked for the original Jog Bra. It was based in Williston, Vermont, and I did data entry.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That is really
Little
funny.
would I know, I'd get into apparel years later. I was curious about a lot of things. And of course, I worked at the clothing stores. I worked at the mall, at the Limited. I was a PDLA, a perfectly dressed limited associate. Every day at work.
That was the acronym.
It was a thing. And it was a thing. Vermont was just a very beautiful place. But I did want to go to school outside of Vermont. And I did. I went right outside of Boston. And I spent my summers doing internships, either in New York or Washington, D.C.
What was your favorite internship?
I had so many that I loved. I thought for sure, I was going to go into politics because we were always had a very politically active family. So I interned for the Senate Majority Leaders, George Mitchell, and then the late Ron Brown in the Democratic National Committee in his press office. And then I was like, I want to be a broadcast journalist. So my favorite internship story is I applied to be an intern at like all the local Vermont stations. I was going to school in Boston, all the Boston stations, and then the CNN bureaus. And this is when CNN was just getting going. And of course, Nightline. While everyone else was watching the late night shows, I was watching Nightline at night. I loved Ted Koppel. I just did. Well, I got rejection letters from everyone. Not everyone, all the local Boston and Burlington stations. But I got accepted into CNN in 2 of their bureaus. And I hadn't heard from Nightline. So I started in CNN in New York, working from 7 a.m. until like 2 or 3. And then Nightline called and said, we want you to interview for an internship. I'm like, I can't say no to Ted Koppel. I checked it out and I interned. They offered me the job. So I decided to do both.
My goodness.
So that was my favorite. It's one of those things. Like I have a couple mantras in life. One of them is when in doubt, you check it out. Like, go for it. Like if you get offered an opportunity, you go for it. And so that's what I did. That's exactly what I did for, who would think like I would be working for CNN in the morning and Nightline at nighttime? It's kind of a dream.
Yeah.
And I also believe in chapters in life. And, you have to know that and embrace that the fact that you are going to have chapters in your life and you shouldn't be afraid of them. You should embrace them. And sometimes you need to turn the page yourself boldly and confidently.
It's so interesting that you say this. So I just had one of my best friends in the city on. We did a live Instagram a couple weeks ago about what an intern should do when they're in their office for the first time, what you should do in your first job, just because I feel like a lot of people missed out on those very early tips during COVID. They were in college and then college closed. So they never really had that first job experience, or they didn't have the in-person internship experience. And I always think, and I've said this to many people, similar to what you were saying about when in doubt, check it out. The answer is always yes. If someone offers you the opportunity when you are in an internship to attend something or go to something or, go with them to a meeting, the answer is always yes. And I've honestly followed that philosophy my entire life. Even when I travel, I say it to people, they're like, well, how did you end up in this incredible vacation? I'm like, because somebody on my vacation mentioned that they were going to be there and we should try it out. And the answer is always yes when I'm on vacation. And it leads you down this path of discovery. And as you said, when in doubt, check it out, because you never know what's going to be on the other side of it. And you never know what that opportunity leads to. So what did those internships lead to for you?
I graduated from college. I went to Bentley College and I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to go back to CNN. So I had a financial degree and I had all this broadcast journalism experience. I minored in communications, and I started being an intern was very different than going to work at CNN. And I got offered these jobs to go back, but they were like per diem days. It wasn't a guaranteed job. And I'm like, okay, I think it's time I need a job. I think it's time for a job. So, I've always been curious. And I've also always had the confidence to ask for help. And I think that's another one of my mantras that I have is you should always ask for help. And if someone can't help you, which usually people like to help other people, you need to ask the following question is, if you can't help me, do you know who else can? So as I am interviewing for jobs after college, actually I was interviewing for jobs while I was still in college, which some people don't do, which I never understood. I would meet with someone that knew someone that knew someone. I'm like, oh, well, if you don't have an opportunity for me here, do you know of another opportunity? Or do you know knowing something about me, what do you think I should do? Well, I went to New York City one day. I started off at HBO. I don't even know how I got an interview at HBO. And they're like, I don't think you're going to like, this isn't going to be the career track you're going to want. But I used to work at Edelman. I think you're going to really love working at Edelman. Now, Edelman is, one of the world's largest PR agencies, if not the largest at this point. And I literally walked down the street. They picked up a phone and I walked down the street and I met with the HR department, who then I met with the head of financial media division and media relations division. And I had a job that very afternoon.
Wow.
And that is the path.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the age of 24, 25, I was the youngest vice president of the company. Not the youngest female, the youngest period. And by 28, 29, I was over at Weber Shandwick running their financial media department, which is another huge PR firm.
It's interesting, Kerry, listening to this, nothing about what you're saying surprises me, because I think at the core of everything that you're talking about, there is a work ethic that is undeniable. The double internship, the constant curiosity and taking on of more and more and more, it's such a huge part of success. And I truly believe that people try to shortcut it. People always say, oh, you can make it work. The bottom line is, if you show up and you do the work and you say yes and you go to the opportunities, things will work out. Maybe not in the way that you expect, but I do believe that that is the core to all of it. And it's clearly something that you've embraced. So do you think that came from your parents, or did that come from competing with your siblings? Is that just an inner fire in you?
There's no vacations when you grow up on a farm. My father didn't work the farm. He did when he was younger, but I saw how hard they worked there. I saw how hard my mother worked to help raise 5 children. And I saw how much my father worked to, build his company. And I also played sports, and you have to put the work in. It's just, to think that you can't is not right. I mean, you're not going to succeed. The people around you, you set an example for other people. You have to work hard. Now, you're not always going to be right. You're going to make mistakes along the way. And this is another thing. Expect to fail. You will fail, because if you're not working your hardest, like at Commando, we always like to innovate. We always like to be at the cutting edge, even though we have the world's best fabrics and we anoint our fabrics and we just have a very specific design ethos. We still have to move forward and give her state-of-the-art technology or what she may need in her closet. Most of the time we're right, but sometimes we won't be right. Mm-hmm. Just like the failure I told you about, not getting into the local TV stations. Like, if you can't push the boundaries and be right all the time. So you have to be curious. You also have to be brave.
Yeah. So we talk about bravery, and there was definitely a step in your career that was very brave. You had been on this incredible track, as you said, the youngest vice president. You're working in communications. You're obviously killing it in New York, the top of your game. September 11th happens, and you quit your job. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was down in Tribeca at the time, and I had thought about leaving my career before that, and I just didn't know what I was going to do next. And it wasn't like, I'm going to quit my job and start this underwear company. I just knew that I needed another chapter in my life. It was time. That was, in hindsight, I quit because I just couldn't watch the news cycle anymore. At the time I had CNN, CNBC all the time. I had my Bloomberg terminal. I was watching the war because we were very market driven, and I just knew I couldn't relive that news cycle over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I had some clients in the trade centers. So I just said, I'm going to pause. And everyone said, no, we're not going to accept your resignation. We want you to think about it. And I didn't need that. I knew that it was time to turn the page. And the truth is, I was burnt out. And I knew I didn't want my boss's job. I didn't want my boss's job. I didn't want to run the New York office. I needed to do something entirely different. My parents kind of freaked out a little bit. Like, they're like, it's okay. You need a plan. Because like the whole idea of just like quitting your job, not knowing what you're going to do. But I needed that for me. So then I decided to write a book.
Okay.
And it was called Hit the Road, Jack, a grown girl's guide to breaking up. Because I was in my 20s, I was in New York City, and my friends were getting together, breaking up, getting together. It was so much.
This is very Sex in the City. I feel like I would have loved this in my 20s, by the way. I hope this book is somewhere so I can read it for my past self.
Remember my rejection letter? I collect rejection letters. Did you know that about me?
Yeah, framed on the wall.
Most people save all their acceptance letters, not me. They're all the rejection letters. So
I love it.
I sent it out to publishers and agents, and I started sending it out. And I had an inspirational song list at the end, hence the name Hit the Road, Jack.
What was on it?
Okay. It was hit them. These boots are made for walking. There were so many great songs in there. And I got the best rejection letters. And they were like, you need to write about what you know. You're not a doctor. You're not even saying that you have experience with a breakup. Write about what you know. And basically they're saying, who the hell do you think you are writing, giving us advice? And so I was like, I think I can write about styling tips and what to wear underneath outfits, because I was, an unpaid stylist for my friends. And I realized that when we talked about our outfits from head to toe, the majority of the time that I would see them, they would look amazing, except for the fact that they were wearing the most horrendous underwear underneath their outfit. Bad bras, bad underwear. And so that's why I decided to write my second book, which was never published, Rack Management 101, what every woman needs to know about bras, chickens, and duct tape.
Oh.
And in the middle of writing that book, I said, I don't want to write about this industry. I want to change this industry. And that's what I did.
That is an incredible story. So, okay, so you're writing the book. And what's the next step? Do you have an aha moment where all of a sudden you're like, I want to change the industry. What's the next day?
It was, I started writing it and I was like, how is this a book and not an article? And how many books am I really going to sell? And the reason I'm writing this book is because I didn't have an underwear brand I loved, and neither did my friends. And that is why we all showed up kind of the same way. And so I realized there were three types of underwear. There was the sexy underwear, which was a male's view of sexy. And then there was the shaping underwear, which was, in order to look beautiful, you have to be smaller and uncomfortable. And then there was the comfortable underwear, which was really ugly underwear, because I'm convinced I want to say it's men, but it may not have been men, but these people that designed this underwear were thinking, well, if she cares about comfort, she doesn't care what she looks like. Which is so not true.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I've never thought about it that way, but that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
They were like, if she doesn't care, she wants to be comfortable, she's sloppy, or she doesn't care. But it's not true. Everyone wants comfort.
Yes.
And comfort is the catalyst for confidence. It really is. Have you ever felt confident if you're uncomfortable? Ever?
No. And I can say when I'm on stage in dresses, I feel like in my early 20s, when I was first taking auctions, I would squeeze myself. I had friends who worked in PR and they would send over samples. And I'm tall, but I'm not a sample size. I can remember so many times like squeezing myself into these dresses, and I was so uncomfortable on stage. Like I literally couldn't breathe. And then at some point, the more confident I became, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, do you think anybody there wants me to be wearing that and so uncomfortable that I can barely breathe? And the only thing I have to do in my job, frankly, is breathe and talk. So like the thing I really need to be able to do to be an auctioneer is breathe. The more confident I became, I just sort of wore things that were comfortable and felt flattering to me. And that has made me feel more confident every time I'm on stage. So I fully understand that. And we kind of talked about your underwear as part of that.
Yeah. I mean, it all for Commando, we have a very specific and disciplined design ethos, which is, how does it feel is the first criteria. Number 2 is, how does it fit? And only then do we care about what it looks like. If it meets the first 2 criteria, then we go to the third, and how does it look? Because I don't care how it looks on her. If she is uncomfortable and it doesn't fit her, or him, by the way, then it's not part of the Commando line. And I have to wear test every single item. It's called the Kerry test.
I love that.
And imagine opening up your closet and loving everything in it, and knowing that everything in that closet is going to make you look and feel confident and beautiful. That's the dream that we want to create, that everyone should have. And you should love everything you wear. We want to make your favorite everything, but we've had some fun times in the Kerry test, I have to say, because the people, the women mostly that wear Commando, they are busy. Okay, we don't define them by generation. They don't sit down and watch life go past. They're full participants. They never want their clothes to slow them down. And so I have been known to do jumping jacks in the dressing room. It's not, downward dogs. Like she is picking, she is traveling. She's picking up her kids. She's working out. She's living her life, and we need to keep up with her and be there for her as her trusted garment supplier.
I love
underwear
it.
supplier, clothing suppliers, all sorts of the whole range that we offer, from hosiery to slips to camis to now suiting.
But Kerry, it's a different thing to have an idea and articulate certain issues that you see within an industry and start a business. So when you have this moment, this aha moment, what are the next steps for you? And I ask this because I feel like a lot of women approach me for coffees or over DM, and they ask me this question where it's like, I have this idea for a business. I have this like thing that's just eating away at me that I have to try, but then they don't know where to start. And it becomes overwhelming. And so they never do. And 5 years later, they're still in the same place. So tell us all about how you started. What were the first things that you did?
Well, I used to think that coming up with the idea was the hardest part, and it's not. It's not the hardest part. The hardest part is to making your idea come to fruition. And there are many parts of that. You have to know that it's, number one, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy by design. And that's normal. You need to know that that's normal, that it's not easy. And you don't accept no. And so what that means is, remember I talked to you about asking for help. People do like to help other people. Look around you. You have so many, you don't have any employees yet, but you have all of these people in your life that bring their life expertise and their professional expertise to you. And then they have their network of people that can do it. So you go back to that. Remember that question? If you can't help me, do you know someone else that can? Yeah. And that is so important. In the beginning, I had some help from family, but, I was doing everything from packaging to concept designs to selling to warehouse fulfillment. What's a UPC code? Who knows? I know what it is now. I know how to get one. But, these are the things that sometimes I think can defeat some people because it seems like such a barrier. But you can get through all of these.
Yeah.
If you're patient and diligent.
I love the idea of asking for help. One thing I remember doing, and I talk about this story in Claim Your Confidence in my second book, about wanting to start a masterclass during COVID because I'd had so many people reaching out about certain categories. And I was like, well, I could start a masterclass and, do something. So I had this whole concept. And the one thing that was holding me back was payment. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was from a friend of mine who has a clothing company called Shop Buru. And, she's just one of those people who has a D2C business. And she's just always selling. And I have so much respect for her. And she came on the podcast and I was recounting this story of a time when I wanted to start a masterclass during COVID. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out how I was going to get payment. How was I going to put this out online and get payment back? And because of that, it really delayed me by months because it just sort of stymied me. And so I finally was like, wait, who do I know who I could call and not feel silly asking this question? And I called Morgan. And she said, and I will use this advice until the day I die. Sometimes if I don't know how to do something, I put an Instagram timer saying that I'm about to start something or launch something in 3 days, and then I figure it out in 3 days. So she's like, and I thought it was the best thing because, of course, with pressure, you can figure it out. And so I ended up just using Venmo. I would just write people's information down and take Venmo. And steps now, I actually had a web designer build in the ability to sell things on my website, but that took 2 years. And so Venmo provided a very great platform, very easy way to do it until that time. So I think that is a huge part of business, right? Sort of figuring those things out, but always asking for help.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one thing I read in an article, you talk a little bit about the female mentors over the course of your career, in particular, Josie Notori, who gave you a lot of advice. And I do think that female mentorship is something that seems more recent. I feel like a couple of us got lucky to have some female mentors. I felt like my female mentors were more my peers. Tell me a little bit about that relationship and how you've paid that forward in your own work.
First of all, Mrs. Notori is such a lovely person, and she was so welcoming. When I decided to start my company, I remember the story that I was heading to Paris for a fabric show. That's where most of our fabrics come from Europe, and that's where you go to shop the fabric. And I was just starting out, but I started off Commando in a few stores, and it just kind of overnight it was written about and everyone was talking about it. But I was still, I had just given birth to my first son, and I don't want to say it was timid, but I didn't know what to expect. When you have new experiences, it's curiosity, but you have to be brave. And I'm at the airport lounge, and there is Mrs. Notori. And my husband said, Kerry, go say hello to her. Go say hello. I'm like, I'm going to go say hello to her. And I did. What? Talk about not having confidence to do it. I went over there and she's like, of course I know Commando. Of course I know. You're going to Paris? Come to my house for cocktails.
Oh
Can
my
you
gosh.
believe this?
Oh my gosh.
So she immediately welcomed another female founder. I'm sure they called her when I was nominated to be part of the Council of Fashion Designers of America, because she was one of the only few intimate apparel designers that were part of that as well. And she's just been very supportive as well. I had some great female and male mentors when I was in public relations. I've had many customers that have been mentors to me, but one in particular who was very senior over at Neiman Marcus, her name was Mary Krug. And she was just lovely. She wanted to see my business grow, not just because she wanted to see Neiman Marcus's business grow. I think she took a lot of pride in watching kind of what started as this one idea into a whole line. So she was really great too. Those are very special relationships. I wish they happen more often. Mentorship is very important, whether it's a male or a female, I feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you learn so much from watching someone who's gone before you. You can sort of take their confidence and understand how they got there, because I'm sure, especially as a founder, there were a few dings along the way. So tell me a little bit about a couple of failures, because I always love a good failure story. I think it emboldens us to hear people who, have gone before and are unequivocally successful, but they come with some great stories as well.
So I'm going to tell you a couple. Let me bring you back to that Paris show. Okay. I'm on my way to Paris. Mrs. Notorious so nice. I'm going to go to her beautiful apartment and meet her for drinks. But then I go to the trade show and I'm like, hi, my name is Kerry O'Brien. I'm from this company called Commando. And they're like, we know Commando. And they reach under their desk and they pull out my bright pink thong box. Okay. And it happened to every fabric vendor I went to. And they said, if one other person asked me about you and your technology and your fabric, I keep on being sent these pink boxes and everyone wants to know how you did it. I was really shaken. I'm like, how can I compete? I was 6 months into introducing this product and I had my limited distribution, although boutiques and a few department stores, Bergdorf, Neiman's, and a few other, but I'm like, I am out of business before I'm in business. And I learned something. You have to just keep on going. It's not like you have to outrun your competition. You don't, because that implies that you always have to come up with things that are new and people lose interest in your old things. That's not true. Our original thong is still one of our best sellers, but you have to just keep on going and just stay focused on what you're trying to do, which was, designing all of these pieces that she loves to wear every day, that she reaches for first every morning or every time she goes out. From an actual business standpoint, obviously there's been challenges. There's challenges on a daily basis, but the major ones was in 2008, 2009, the recession was pretty scary when all those banks were failing. Everything was on sale at Saks Fifth Avenue. We weren't sure. I mean, no one was ordering anything.
Yeah.
I had to be brave. I had to be confident. And I had to work with our partners. And instead of every ounce of me wanted to say, stop all production.
Yeah.
We don't need anything more, which we didn't, by the way. But we didn't, because we knew if we did that, some of our partners will go out of business. And that's not a true spirit of partnership. So we worked together to put together our basics, and they would just manufacture our basics during that time, knowing I could sell them down the road, hopefully, if the economy turned around, which of course it did. Yeah. So that was a very challenging time that I just had to keep my feet planted. That also happened around the time my twins were born. So isn't that even extra perfect? So I was like, and then of course the pandemic. I mean, every single store in the world that we're selling to shut down. Yeah. But she came for me. I underestimated our customer in a way of how much she loves our brand. She leaned into the brands that she loved and felt beautiful and comfortable and confident in during that time. Despite the fact that all of our stores were shut down, we ended up having a very good year that year because she voted for us and she stood by us. And we innovated during that time. We pivoted to lounge. She loves our butter fabrication. Instead of just underwear, we made her loungewear.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And it must have been nice too, having gone through the recession. I truly felt like, in some ways, although the pandemic was so uncertain and there were so many things that felt so foreign, in New York City specifically, having been through the recession here, I had seen this city have a really dark time. I also lived in New York City during September 11th. So I have seen the city come back twice, and in a way that always gives me hope for wherever I am in life, that it's a cycle and it may take a long time, but ultimately we will come through it and we will learn lessons and we will take those lessons forward. I think that that also gives you confidence in business,
Oh, absolutely.
having gone through the recession and then the pandemic, not dissimilar. Don't need as much inventory. You're not sure that the stores are even going to make it. Where's your customer? Who is she? Where is she going? What is she doing? All of those things you've answered once during the recession. Obviously, COVID was a little different because then you also had time to innovate. But how amazing that you can make loungewear now and all of those things that a woman still needs, right?
During those times is when we had most of our innovation, because it's one thing like, and that's a lesson I learned. You can't just focus on the ongoing of your business. Like when everything's growing, you're like, okay, we need to produce more. We need to, keep up with demand. But you can't lose fact of that you have to always innovate. During the 2009 recession, 8-9, that is when I developed our raw cut cotton line, some of our hosiery lines, which is a patented hosiery line. And during the pandemic, this is when I designed our CEO collection, which is our suiting collection, because I was wearing leggings every day. Of course, I love my faux leather leggings because I always felt like it was like my warrior pants. I was like ready to bring on. I always feel so confident in and I particularly love our patent leather leggings. But I also wore our neoprene, our Italian neoprene, and it was a fairly new fabric for us. And I'm like, gosh, this reminds me of the fabric when I used to be in my corporate days. I lived in a Prada techno suit, and it was my uniform, and I just accessorized around it. And I'm like, I want to create that kind of concept idea for our customers. And I have to say, my design team was like, "What are you talking about?" Everyone's locked into their house. Like we're doing fittings remotely, or we'd be outside in someone's lawn, or outside the garage. The garage door would open. And like people would be in their underwear and we'd have to, because we have to see it on body, right?
Yeah. You're doing your downward dog in the garage.
And so the suiting, I knew she wanted to, now she's never giving up comfort because she was used to being comfortable. I knew she would want to travel, go places. And she wanted to look put together and stylish and comfortable at the same time. And that's exactly what our CEO suiting did for her.
I love it. I love it. And I love that brought it to the place where we are now. So tell me a little bit about your business today.
As you know, we're based in Vermont. We sell to major department stores like Neiman, Saks, Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, Revolve, Net-a-Porter, and hundreds of boutiques across the country. And of course, wearcommando.com. And we do everything from that original CTO1, our underwear where it all started, up to our CEO suiting. We have a patent on our hosiery, which I'm very proud of, a utility patent, and also, we have a patent on our slip collection, which is really great. And we have about 100 people that work for us, mostly in Vermont, but around the country. And we are trying to just go from the top drawer to your entire closet. And we are also launching our men's line later this summer.
That's exciting.
Oh, now men can wear Commando.
And now men can wear Commando too. Well, it's incredible to listen to this and just think about how your business has evolved since you started and how exciting it is that there's so much more to come for you. I know you're also a mom of 3. We were talking about this right before. Your kids are a little older than mine. We have one in college and 2 twins about to be 16, you said.
Yeah.
What is it like for you to show them this that you've created? What does that feel like for you to know that there's this legacy that they get to look up to and to hopefully aspire to in their own lives?
Well, I would say that my hope for them is they find something that they love to do.
Yeah.
And that they're good at, and knowing that it's okay to have more than one career in your life and more than one direct, it's okay to change chapters along the way. And that everyone is a multifaceted person. Like I believe truly that people go to work every day because they are trying to live their lives. Life shouldn't be work. It should be the family that is around you and the things that you love most. So Commando is almost like my 4th child, if you don't count my husband.
Yeah.
We've all kind of grown up together, and they've seen the good times. They've seen the bad, the challenging times. But I will say, I've had to make some interesting choices along the way because you can't be there every time. You can't run a company that's based in Vermont that you need to be in New York and be there for everything. But when I look at it now, my 16-year-old girls are looking at me like, wow, Mom, that's pretty amazing. remember what my dad said, you have to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I like being looked at as a badass. And I think my girls look up at me, and it's not strange that I want my children to look up at me as my mother's a badass, but that's not such a bad thing.
Oh, I
You
think it's
know?
awesome. I think it's really awesome.
And one of the things that was kind of like these aha moments for me is I realized where the most stressful parts came out is when I had to travel for work. And all of a sudden I was a little like, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? And then the kids here, you're like thinking about not doing it. And then the second I was no apologies about it, this is what I need to do. That's when everything lifted in my household.
Yeah.
Like there was no stress. This is what's happening and this is why I'm doing it, and we can all move on with our lives.
Yeah.
And not worry about it. So that was like, if I could give advice to younger, with mothers that have younger children, that would be something that helped me.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I agree about the travel. If you waver, then they latch on and they're like, oh no, you're sad about leaving me? You're like, no, I'm so excited for this trip. And I've always used the advice that I take my kids whenever I can so that they can see what I do. It's not always the easiest, but it does make a difference. And if I'm going for a long stretch of travel, especially with my oldest, who it seems to affect more than any of the others, I'm like, that's okay, because in 3 weeks, I'm going to take you on a trip just with me. And that for her, I could go anywhere because she knows that she'll get to come with me and we'll stay somewhere nice and have fun and just really carve out that time so that she can see what her mom is doing. I think I told the story in another podcast, but my youngest is a little bit tough on me. She always has been ever since she was born. It seems to be getting better now that she's older. But I remember going for an auction, and there were some older girls who were watching her, who were teenagers. And I was staying at a mom's house, and I think there were 3 daughters sitting there. And my youngest daughter at that point was like 6 years old. And I came downstairs and I was going to take the auction. Her mom was coming as well. And one of the girls looks at me and she goes, wow, I love your dress. And then the other girl goes, I love your jewelry. And my 6-year-old said, my mommy is an auctioneer and she goes on stage in front of hundreds of people.
Wow.
I called my mom afterwards and I said, I think that was honestly one of the most redemptive conversations I've ever had with my youngest, because I know that she sees me go out all night. And of course that means that I'm not necessarily there for that hour or two when I sort of go out right before bed. But at the same time, they do see that. And hopefully, as your parents did for you, it shows them that the benefit of hard work and how that opens doors in every direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Kerry, thank you so much for a wonderful time. I've loved hearing your story. I've loved learning more about you. You've told us a little bit about what to expect, but where can we watch you on social? Where can we find Commando?
You can find Commando at We're Commando. That is our Instagram handle.
All right, great. Well, we will be looking, we will be watching, we will watch the men's collection launch. There's a lot to see. And I hope that everyone will take this one piece of advice that I love so much, which ask for help, guys. Yeah. Ask anyone at any time for help. People love to help people. And Kerry, thank you for sharing that and being here today. Thank you to everyone who has listened today. I'm Lydia Fenet. This is Claim Your Confidence. I look forward to being back with you again next Tuesday. Have a great week.